5-star talent on this podcast series. You saw the faces. Highly recruited Danny Davis and the Hardball Hardge. Both of you, I got to admit, I started it off all wrong. I said Hardge, he just came back from tropical paradise looking all relaxed. I told Danny that you look like you made that transition to make that marathon run through football. Danny, I apologize. You look great too.
You don't need to lie to your viewers. They have eyes too. They can see what August has done to me. So no need to lie about it.
No, it looks great. Danny has been covering the Longhorns so far, and that's obviously the inspiration camp. #Hook'em football. Before we begin, we got to give a shout out to Shoal Saloon. You know, you got a little taste of Louisiana. Obviously, the home of LSU football and the Saints and everything. Texas Longhorns. If I know crawfish are out of season, but that Louisiana greatness, go by there. The beer seems to be colder than most places in Austin. And our friend Mark Pena was looking for the Cubs game in a sports bar. We won't name it. I couldn't believe what he said, but that was awesome. But Shoal Creek Saloon, you can catch every Major League Baseball game. Gentlemen, how do we start? I think since our guy Jeff Barker from KI, he's not here because I think he's still recovering from his bachelor party. Can either of you confirm or deny that?
I wasn't invited, and I don't think I could have hung with those guys even if I had been invited. So I just remember my bachelor party, and it's probably best if his bachelor party is anything like my bachelor party. It's probably best we stop talking about for the sake of Mr. Barker's upcoming nuptials.
I would agree with that 100%, Danny. As someone who had multiple bachelor parties, no. I was only married once. I just had a lot of friends wanting to do different things. So, yeah, I understand. Next question.
Next question. Hey, well, I won't say anything because I'm not going to confirm or deny anything that occurred on mine. Mine was rather small. It seems like everything gets small when you ask people at the time to make a road trip to Nacogdoches, Texas. It's a great idea at first until they see the 4-hour drive, and it turned into single-digit numbers, but that's okay. The next topic, bachelor parties to the Longhorn receivers. There's a lot of them, and both of you have either written or discussed a lot about this receiving corps. First and foremost, before we dial into Johntay and Xavier, I mean, are there enough balls around to this, what could be the elite group of receivers in this country? And we'll start from the bottom and work our way up, beginning with you, Danny.
I mean, if they're winning, sure. You know, I think for the most part, and I think Sark's involvement with that Alabama squad that had all those first-round receivers a few years ago is kind of the blueprint for this. But if they're winning and, you know, they're looking good on paper that way, you know, the scouts are going to come see these guys, and they're going to be, you know, they're going to be content with their, you know, even if it's like 30, 40 receptions apiece. You know, if things go haywire, and, you know, that tends to be when people get a little discontent with their playing time and stuff like that. Not saying that these guys are like that. I can't speak to that, but I think if they're winning, I think they're going to be happy, and I think Steve is a good enough play caller to design stuff to feed, you know, the 3, 4, 5 receivers they're going to have to feed, plus, you know, Jatavian Sanders, who's a great pass catching tight end. But, you know, I'm not really concerned about. Yeah, sure, these guys aren't all going to have 100 receptions, and Xavier may not win the Biletnikoff because he won't have the numbers. But I think they'll be content, especially if they're winning.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you with everything that you said, Danny, especially because of the fact of the W's. I'm sure we'll talk about Coach Sark here in just a little bit and his numbers and how everything plays out. But they've always had some weapons. Now, to this level, they haven't had it since Sark has been here, which is beautiful. This is a great receiving core. You bringing up Johntay Cook and Xavier Worthy. We still got A.D. Mitchell, and my favorite player that I think is the most underutilized player is Jordan Whittington.
Yes.
I don't know what he has to do to be more involved in this offense. He's never in any of the conversations whenever anybody talks about it, is because they don't throw the deep ball to him. He's more reliable underneath. And now bringing up JT Sanders, think about all those weapons that you're going to have to move around. And for me, I think it's more beneficial for Quinn Ewers to have all these weapons because they can't take away just one thing. That's the beauty of this offense. And to touch on what Danny said about the Biletnikoff and Xavier Worthy, I'm with you on that, because if things are run properly, this could be probably one of the most prolific offenses that we've seen here at Texas. Now, the quarterback obviously has to be a major factor in that, but you will never be short of weapons when you look at it. Even on the depth chart, go back and look at the depth chart that was released. There's a lot of talent in that wide receiver room. Now it's just a matter of making sure that you use them judiciously.
The amazing thing to me, I mean, in this era of NIL and the transfer portal, to really compile that amount of talent, I was laughing so hard, Hardge, when you guys and on the former Horn were laughing about you got everybody here. You got the Cadillac, you got the Lexus, all these beautiful pieces in that receiving room, but how are you going to get the ball to them? But you know, you have Johntay being the freshman. You know, Sark mentioned why he's such a good compliment to Xavier, and he's, for a freshman to come in with this work ethic already, just according to what Sark said. This, I know it's coach speak, but I like to think that Sark is being on point when he's describing what Johntay has accomplished to date at practice.
But I just think there's a level of comfort schematically. I think that it's making sense to him, what we're asking of him. And then he's making the most of his opportunities.
But it's pretty basic, but so how would you describe that to about Johntay to a fan who's really never seen him? I just want to say quick twitch, another gear. Is that fairly accurate there, Danny?
Well, I think you can just go ask our friends at the Vandergrift High School who Johntay Cook is, and Trey Wisner and those DeSoto boys who, we love the Vipers, but they were not in the same categories as DeSoto in that championship game. So I think they can probably give you a good scouting report. And if you're at that spring game, obviously you saw that long touchdown catch that Johntay had from Malik Murphy. But obviously, he's a talented kid. He's got speed. Xavier likes to call him his mini-me now, and Johntay is obviously kind of soaking it in from him, kind of running behind him in practice and stuff like that. So I don't want to call him the next Xavier Worthy, because there's only one Xavier Worthy, and I hate making those comparisons. I mean, he's the first Johntay Cook, and I think everything can be content with that. I guess he's the second Johntay Cook. He's a Johntay Cook the second. So I guess he's the second. But
technicality.
Yeah. But he's obviously a talented kid who this Texas team has a lot of faith in and hopes for in the future. It may not show up immediately because there are some older vets in front of him, but I think if he is what everyone says he is, and everyone has been singing his praises in fall camp, he's going to be a pretty good receiver at some point here at Texas.
Yeah, and the fact that he's getting all that work and getting the reps and already jumping up in the depth chart, it's fortunate too, because he was here early. He got a chance to come to school early and kind of develop that college work ethic and making sure that he's working on his body and spending time and watching film and doing those little things that is going to make you one of those elite type of player. He came in with all the hype, and to Danny's point, I was at that championship game. He was electric, and there were some times that I'm like, he's so wide open that they don't even throw him the ball sometimes. I'm like, he was open a lot. And it's fun to have those expectations on some of these players if they can handle it. And I believe he's mentally in that area because he wants to be great. He wants to be a good wide receiver. So some people are built for it. Some aren't. Some it takes a little bit longer than others. But just like X-Man, when he got here, he was on the field from day one, and he hadn't been off. So I expect big things from Johntay Cook this coming season and for the coming seasons.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. And one thing that I can't stand though, but it's good for the fans, are the preseason watch list. Quinn has a lot to prove this year, a lot to prove. And I know he was hurt, and really that was his first full season. But I've seen Heisman, the Maxwell, Dave O'Brien, whatever, all those quarterback awards. He's got to be that guy that's consistent and shows proves to himself and everybody that he's that type of quarterback. But I think the offense is going to get a lot of opportunities because I think this front seven, this defense has is a lot better than people are giving them credit for. I'm going to pull up this picture, and there's some dudes on this defensive line. And I was a big fan of number 88. I didn't think he was arrived yet, but I thought this kid showed some flashes last year. Baron Sorrell. And if the picture would ever come up, that would be beautiful. There it is. That is what is that picture? What is he saying? What's the thought bubble right there? Because that's intensity right there.
What he's really saying is, damn, this shirt is tight. he's like, man, I can't feel my arms right now. But yeah, true story. I was out one night with my family having dinner in the Domain, and I see this guy sitting across from me, and I'm looking at him, and most of the time, if you're not on the offensive side, nobody really sees your face. They don't really. But I kept looking at him. I was like, that dude, that's got to be Baron Sorrell. So I sent John Bianco, shout out John Bianco, because I was like, hey, is this one of your players right here? Because this dude looks massive, and he got a lot of food in front of him. And sure enough, it was him. Very, very nice young man. But you can see once you get on the field, they become something totally different. But I always say it, and he jumped off the screen last year, and he did a lot of amazing things. But there's always those guys that look like that just don't seem to have that go motor. I'm not saying him, but whenever you see those pictures, you're like, okay, bro, what you got for me? I need you to go out there and do something, rip somebody's head off. But he's definitely done very well in the college weight program.
Yeah, very nice job. That's the protein intake. Perfection.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Danny when he was at the University of Montana.
I mean, intake, sure. I don't know if I ever looked like that in the photo. I'm pretty sure I would have done a little bit better with the ladies, but these photos are. I mean, they're nice. They're fun. They give the players some likes on Twitter and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter. What matters is what I saw with my two eyes last year. And Baron Sorrell is a beast, and I think he can obviously build off of what he did last year. He's going to need to, because even though this defensive line, this front seven with Jalen Ford leading the way, they have talent, but they do have to replace two guys who are in the NFL right now, and they do have to replace a guy who transferred to LSU that started all but one game last year. Yeah. So I mean, there are some holes on this front seven defensive line, and Byron Murphy, those guys, T'Vondre Sweat, they're going to be asked to step up, and they have the pedigree, they have the look. It's just a matter of let's see if they can do it. Alfred Collins is another guy we've heard about for a while who's going to need to step up. So the pictures are nice, but I think Texas fans would much rather see pictures of him, sacking Dylan Gabriel or taking down whoever the quarterback at Alabama is. I think those are the photos that Texas fans would be a little bit more happier about.
I couldn't agree more, Danny. And the one name that you brought up is somebody that I've been waiting for to really, really pop. And he's had his moments, and he played big last year. I'm not going to say Collins. I'm going to say T'Vondre Sweat. He has been my pick to click every single year. Like every year I keep thinking this is going to be the season that he does some amazing things. And I think he will. I really do think he will. I think he's now at that age, right? You've been around long enough. There's nothing that's going to shock you anymore. There shouldn't be anything. There's not going to be a front on the offensive line where you go in there and you look confused. No, this is where you go out and have pure domination. And he's such a massive big man that it truly shows that how good some of these other teams are up front as well, because that's the type of player that you would think would be able to move people around and do whatever he wants to. But he has some struggles, and he's had some struggles through his career. His best game last year, I thought, was the Alabama game. He was all over the place in that game. And, you know, you got to show up in big games, but you also got to dominate those opponents, those lesser opponents, and be able to show up every play. So just make sure you're not taking any plays off. But they got so much depth there that if you're going to take a play off, just come out of the game and let somebody else go in there that's going to continue to put that pressure on the quarterback.
By the way, I still think, Tavondre, that was the most bizarre play where it didn't result in a safety against Alabama. Then it was targeting. Well, what? What are we doing?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that won't be called in the SEC in 2024. I mean, you never know. But, you know, Barron Sorrell, they've got – you're talking about this depth of this line. You can tell that they pour a lot of themselves into their off season, and then listening to him talk, guy is cerebral, and he talks about who really he worked with in the off season, who really inspired him to improve his craft, so to speak.
I worked with DJ, Coach DJ, Derrick Johnson. He was a big help for me. When the month of May, we had that month to honestly take off, and I really just wanted to, like you said, I wanted to focus on my pass rush, so I stayed here and worked with him every day, and that was very helpful for me. And then getting a guy like Jacque Smith on the staff, who's been helping me on my pass rush and firsthand, has been great.
Oh, the Derrick Johnson, that's who he's referencing, right? The former linebacking great, worked with him. I mean, a lot of people forget Derrick. Those quarterback pressures and sacks for a guy that was in the middle, he knew how to rush. He knew, well, he was a pro for so long. He was a pro before he was a pro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, Derrick Johnson is one of those guys that if he talks, you listen, strictly because of the awards that he's won, the longevity in the NFL. But if you go back and you watch Derrick when he first got to Texas, or even in high school, he was an athlete.
Yeah.
He was a person that he knew how to play football from the jump, but he knew how to play everything. He ran track, so he always had that explosion and closing speed. He's going to bring a lot of knowledge to this team. Not just – it's more about the X's and the O's, but it's more about what your keys are in every situation. I remember talking to Kenneth Sims, #1 overall draft pick, College Football Hall of Famer too.
Yeah.
He was telling me about some of the little tricks that he would use when he would go to the line of scrimmage, talking about positioning of the offensive linemen, checking their hands to see if the blood was rushing to their fingers, because that would tell you if they're going to do a run play. And if it was a little lighter, it was a pass play because they were already getting ready to drop off. Those are the types of things that I think these players need to truly take advantage of, because those little tricks of the trade take you so far a lot of times. And him being around the locker room and talking to those kids, I think is going to help them immensely this year.
Yeah, I think, Texas is not unique. There are plenty of other programs in this country that have great alumni, but that is a plus about a school like Texas is just, what the hell are these kids on the defense going to tell Derrick Johnson?
Exactly.
What are they going to tell if Michael Huff pulls aside one of these defensive backs? What are they going to tell Michael Huff? If B. Wise on the sideline saying something to the quarterbacks, what are they going to say to a guy who has his jersey number up there? So I mean, that is a plus about this Texas program, is having a lot of alumni attached, still engaged and attached, and I think Steve's done a good job of bringing a lot of those guys back in and having them reconnected with the program. because this is their alma mater. They want to see them get back to those heights that they witnessed in 05 or earlier when Ricky and Earl were obviously here and stuff like that. So I think that's a plus. And it was nice to hear Barron saying that Derrick had helped him, and Jalen Ford has talked a lot about how he admires DJ and what he did this program. So it's good to have those guys around and wanting to help out this next generation of Longhorns.
I think it's nice, but it's hard to when I hear what I'm about to tell you, you guys have all heard it. You would think that would be natural for the X's to come back and pour themselves into the program. I heard for the longest time after Mac that was not happening. The X's did not feel welcomed. And I don't know why that was. I thought it was happening with Charlie and even Tom, but apparently their presence was not there. I don't know if it was because of the current regime at the time, coaching staff, or just maybe they didn't feel welcome. But I think that speaks volumes. And I'm not over here trying to sunshine pump. I just feel like, you get the feeling, what the expectation is and of people who wore that uniform before you during that heyday. You play to a different level if you truly play to the expectations or the ability, which leads me to this, guys. What's your real quick as we wrap things up? A hard take on the Horns right now at this stage of August camp, Danny.
I mean, I think all the hype is probably justified.
Okay.
I think this is a team that should win the Big 12. This is a team that should be a double-digit win team. I don't know if this is a playoff contender or anything like that, or they're going to go undefeated. But, I mean, you just look at the schedule. Aside from Alabama, name one team that's more talented than this Texas team. Name one team that they shouldn't be favored for. Aside from that Alabama game, they don't have to travel anywhere that's especially daunting, since I personally believe TCU is going to be down this year. And normally at Iowa State in November would have people shaking in their boots, but who knows what this Iowa State team is going to be with all the drama they're dealing with. You have some newcomers like Houston and BYU, which are going to be getting adapted to this conference. Who knows what Oklahoma is? I don't buy this Kansas hype. So, I mean, I think top to bottom, you look at the schedule, this is a Texas team that should win 10 games. Now, will they do it? I mean, this Texas team, we've been down this before.
We've seen this movie.
This Texas team will undoubtedly lose a game they should win. That's just what happens every year. But, if they can limit those mistakes to one and, take an Alabama loss, that's a 10-2 season and an appearance in the Big 12 championship game. So I think the preseason rankings are probably right, but, we'll see. It doesn't really matter what we're saying in August. It matters what they do September through November. And that's been a problem in the past. But this is a talented team. They're, aside from Alabama, they're going to be the most talented team in every game that they play. So we'll just see if they can get that together, and Steve can coach them right, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they don't leave the state of Texas except for 2 times this upcoming season.
Advantageous.
So that is a great situation, and I'm glad you pointed out the Iowa State situation, Danny, because those are the types of games, going to Jack Trice and being in that area just always seems to be a struggle of a game. Yes, you go out there and you're victorious, but it's not the prettiest time on the field. I always worry about K-State as well. K-State is the team that I worry about the most. And it's not necessarily about the players. It's definitely about the coaching. I think Chris Kleiman is on another level with what he gets out of his players and how well prepared they are every single ball game. So those would be it. I put some respect on Sonny Dykes. I'm with you, though. I don't think they're going to be world beaters, but we didn't think that last year either. We didn't know what we were going to get from them, and Sonny has proven to be a damn good coach. And, of course, that Texas Tech game, Black Friday, the 24th. So you sit there and you look at it. But I'm with you. This is a team that all the hype is justified. I think coming into it, Coach Sark knows this season 3, and he's got to bring it. That's why he's doing all these interviews. for the time that I've been here, I've never seen Sark do so many YouTube videos, like doing everybody's shows. And I'm like, wow, they're getting out in front of this thing real early, getting them out there, getting his team built up. But I believe that this is going to be his biggest challenge because there is so much talent on this team. And I'm with Danny. I think 10 wins should be the floor, but we've been falling short plenty of times. They have. If you were a betting man, and I've been known to wager every once in a while, and you were to take the under in the last 20, I think they said the last 13 years, you would have been correct except for 1 year. And that was the year that Sam was, we're back.
Yeah.
That was it. That was when they overachieved. But every other year, the number's been there. I've made the trip to Vegas. I made the trip to New Orleans. I've made trips to go place a wager on these Texas Longhorns. And I've realized I can't do it no more. But I do believe the over-under is 9.5, and I'm going with 10 at least for Texas.
I'm taking the same. But they've got to turn it around this year. I mean, momentum, huge going into the SEC. They really need it because you know what awaits them next year. My favorite YouTube interview, by the way, was when Sark was still. What was the group? Channing Crowder and that group, hilarious.
The pivot.
And they said, "Man, you outkicked your coverage with
lovely
better half, Ariel. That was awesome." Hey, before we wrap it up,
I just want to know, Steve's doing all these YouTube shows. Why has he not been on Stories Inside the Man Cave?
That's a great point. We got to call our boy Johntay.
I think we all know the answer to that, guys.
that request goes straight to voicemail.
Exactly.
I didn't do enough digital back in the day. That's why.
No doubt.
Hey, real quick, I've got to defend the Pac-12 commissioner, the former. This is not Larry Scott's fault. When are people going to realize the realignment that has occurred? It's just the fact that nobody cares about college football enough on the West Coast, period. Are you guys buying that?
I think Oregon cares about football.
Oregon does.
All of them. I think USC cares about football.
Only when they're winning.
Well, that's why they went and got Lincoln. If they didn't care, they would have just kept going with Helton out there. I mean, they made some adjustments. I just think what ended up happening, and this is so funny because I believe Texas ruined two leagues. I think they ruined the Pac-12 by not going there, and they ruined the Big 12 by going the other way. I mean, they're the decision maker. They were holding the pieces together. And I think some of those other teams that didn't take that opportunity to make moves, they just kept their head in the sand and decided that this isn't going to happen. And it was like, man, it's happening. We've known this was coming down for at least 10 years now.
A decade plus.
Because everybody's been trying to make moves. And like Dion said, everybody making money. So don't look at it. It's all about the dollar signs now. It's not about the student athletes anymore. I saw a proposal the other day where they were talking about a West Coast team going to the ACC. What? Like what? 4 time zones? No, man. I can't even find Pac-12, and I got it. And I can't find a game. I haven't seen a game live on the Pac-12 network yet. And I'm like, I have it. Unbelievable.
Remember 9/11, post 9/11, let's schedule in pods type system, close to home, lack of travel. Now you're telling them, oh, it's all right. We'll all put them on a plane. We'll ship them up from West Coast to East Coast. And now you got programs like Washington State who may not have a home that are going to probably settle for what, Danny, $20 million less now in their athletic budget, possibly.
Look, I mean, all I know is you are not going to catch me on a recording defending Larry Scott. I mean, that's the life you want to live, Sean. That's certainly your prerogative, but
Thank you, Danny. Thank you. He talking about I'm not going to blame Larry Scott. Oh yeah, you need to blame him. I
mean, you could have been a little more proactive long ago, but it's not all his fault. That's not a college football. It is a professional sports state, California.
It's not all his fault, but to say he's blameless or to intimate that would be silly. He was still the man in charge when this all started. Realignment is what it is. I mean, yeah. I think at this point, as soon as the news came out the last couple of years of Texas and Oklahoma, saying peace to Oklahoma, saying peace to Bedlam, and Texas saying peace to all this. I mean, hell, go back to a couple of years ago when Rutgers is joining the Big Ten, or Maryland deciding they don't want to be an ACC school anymore, and then USC and UCLA deciding to go. They'd rather play Rutgers and stay in a West Coast conference. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think we all kind of know where this is going 10, 15 years down the road. It's just a matter of getting where it is. I guess I'm kind of like Steve Sarkisian at this point. I'm just paying attention to 2023 and the games I have to cover this year. I'll worry about the SEC next year, and I just hope to God they leave Montana out of this and we don't end up stuck in any of this realignment nonsense, because I'm not built for this Mountain West life. I don't want to live as a Mountain West team. I mean, if Pac-12 wants to give us a call and give us some money, well, I guess we'll take that. But it is what it is. I mean, I think some people are feigning outrage just to feign outrage, and clutching their pearls that, oh my gosh, Oregon State and Oregon can't play anymore, like they ever cared about that game in the first place. Right. Or the Apple Cup's not going to exist anymore, like they do what the Apple Cup was before a week ago. So I think a lot of that's just kind of blown out of proportion for clicks and all that stuff. At the end of the day, it's college football. We're going to have something to watch on Saturday. Our kids, my 2-year-old, Hardge, your kids in a few years, they're going to be asking us, what about the good old days? Tell us about the Big 12, Daddy. What's going on with that? So I mean, It is what it is. I mean, I don't have any recollection of the Southwest Conference or what that was about, and that's going to be what it is in 10, 15 years with this next generation. Adapt or die, as Steve Sarkisian likes to say, and I have too much to care about them to get too upset that Stanford's not going to have a rivalry with USC anymore. Like, this doesn't matter to me. So, once again, Sean, you go ahead defending Larry Scott. You get your sword out and lead that defense. But that's just not how I'm gonna live my life.
That's a good point, though. Even Hardge and I grew up in the Southwest Conference era. We loved it, but let's be honest with ourselves, Hardge. We kind of knew. We didn't know. We kind of knew that probably we were on the tail end of it.
Oh, for sure.
We saw that coming.
Oh, yeah. Especially when SMU got the death penalty. Yeah, we knew that was happening. We knew that was coming.
Hey, Danny Davis, be sure to follow him on Twitter. It's great writing, good insight, good humor. Just an all-around great guy and family.
Don't follow me on Twitter. I'm done with Twitter. Twitter's the devil. I'm out. I'm out. This X Twitter stuff. Don't follow me on Twitter. I need Twitter to go away. Find me on.
I still don't understand the basis behind.
Twitter's the worst. It's awful.
It's a lot of angry people out there still.
There is a lot of angry people out there, but
oh my God,
it cracks me up every once in a while.
Yeah, it does. Man, and Hardge, glad you're back from vacation. You're going to find another home, man. You're too valuable, and we're going to keep doing these once a week. But just 4 episodes of Camp #Hook'em Football. And for Danny and Barker, still recovering. I don't know if he's hungover, but he may be. But he's probably being a good dad right now. And Stevie Lee and the OG Man Cave boys, one of them right here, that being Hardball, Hardge, Big Mike, and the Coach Mo. We are out.